Hey guys, John V from PhoneArena here. You're watching our video comparison between the HTC One M8 and the iPhone 5S. Apple has a head start because the iPhone 5S has been around for a few months now, whereas with the HTC One M8, it's new on the scene, it's trying to establish itself with some very cool new features and updated experience. Knowing that, it's going to be real interesting to see how the HTC One M8 can actually give the iPhone 5S some heated competition. So let's begin. There's an argument that these two are probably one of the few devices, high-end devices, that have premium designs, but between them, we're kind of liking the HTC One M8's design a little bit more. Whereas with the iPhone 5S, it still has a really nice touch to it with its brushed aluminum casing, but doesn't have as much of a profound metal look compared to its rival. Their build qualities are obviously top-notch thanks to their sturdy constructions and their premium choice materials. Holding them in the hand, some people will probably enjoy the iPhone 5S more just because of its smaller footprint and its lighter weight. Yet you can't count out the HTC One M8 either, just because it has a subtle arc with its rear casing, giving it a very ergonomic feel in the hand. That's despite its larger size, and we also appreciate that the sides and edges of the phone are a little bit more curvier than the iPhone 5S. Even though HTC improved the feel and responses of its volume control and physical power button, they're still not quite as good in comparison to the iPhone 5S's set. So if we take a look around their trims, they pretty much feature the same set of ports. They include things like their 3.5mm headset jacks, their microphones, and their internal speakers, and you have also their charging ports. It's a lightning docking port with the iPhone 5S versus the more universal micro USB port in the HTC One M8. However, we feel as though the HTC One M8 has a little bit more flexibility just because you have two dual front-firing speakers with HTC boom sound. It also features a micro SD card slot to increase its storage capacity, and also has an IR blaster, so it doubles as a universal remote. Whereas with the iPhone 5S, the one unique thing about it is the Touch ID biometric fingerprint sensor, which is mainly used to actually unlock the device. Right away you could tell there's a huge disparity with their displays. The HTC One M8 features a 5-inch 1080p Super LCD 3 display. Well, there's a 4-inch 1136x640 IPS LCD display in the iPhone 5S, something that Apple likes to refer to as the Retina display. We'll talk more about it a little bit later on, but in the back of both phones we have the respective cameras. With the iPhone 5S, it's an 8-megapixel iSight camera versus the 4-megapixel ultra-pixel camera of the HTC One M8. So here we are in yet another comparison between an Android device and iOS. So what we have here with the HTC One M8 is the latest version of the Sense UI, version 6.0 running on top of Android 4.4.2 KitKat, and of course with the iPhone 5S, it's sporting iOS 7. We'll quickly run down what we like about the Sense 6.0 user interface over the iOS experience of the iPhone 5S. For starters, it has definitely the more pleasing UI between the two. Nice clean design, very modern, and we could see it extend to various things like the phone dial, the messaging app. Very nice overall presentation with it. Secondly, as a whole, Android continues to have the better implementation when it comes to notifications, just because in here we have access to all of them in one spot, and we have also different connectivity features at our disposal. In addition, there's more personalization with the experience. So you have all the useful widgets directly in the home screen, and if you get to the leftmost pane, you have an HTC Blink feed, which basically aggregates our social networking content, so we have it all in a unified space. Finally, there's one last useful feature with the experience here. It's the handset's various motion launch gestures. They just offer quick peek functionality when the phone's locked. So for example, if you're holding it, you double tap the screen, you could actually power it on so you could view the time and even the weather conditions. You could instantly unlock the device too if you want to, just by doing that gesture. And if you want to jump right into the camera app, all you gotta do is put it into landscape, press either of the volume controls, and it jumps right into it. As for the iPhone 5S and its iOS 7 experience, it's nice that the iOS 7 experience has been updated with its design language, so you have more of this layered design to it and a lot of transparent effects, which is pretty neat, but overall not quite as dynamic in comparison to Sense 6.0 over on the HTC One M8. Now the great thing about iOS 7 too is that it's a very simple and straightforward interface, intuitive too, so it has a very low learning curve, so first time users won't have a problem with it. Another reason why some people probably want to go with the iOS 7 experience is that it has some quality third-party applications. Not only do you get the popular ones, but even some others you don't quite find with Android. And on top of that, it just goes to show that developers have been developing for the platform for quite some time, so you get a more refined experience. So looking on the surface, these two handsets exhibit pretty much similar performances with different operations. Whether it be simple or complex stuff, they run pretty effectively. On paper, some people would probably say that the HTC One M8 has an advantage just because it's a quad-core processor inside of its body versus a dual-core. So the HTC One M8 has a 2.3 GHz quad-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 801 processor with 2 GB of RAM versus the dual-core 1.3 GHz Apple A7 processor with 1 GB in the iPhone 5S. Now, like I said, might be a disparity there, but honestly, the performance is exquisite on both handsets. Even with 3D intensive gaming, they handle it with no problems at all. Surfing the web is something that these two handsets do well, just because you have 4G LTE speed, so you get fast page loads, and of course, buttery smooth navigational controls. The only difference here is just a matter of screen size. Of course, some people will prefer the HTC One M8 just because it has a larger screen. We've been always fond with the iPod music player with the iPhone, but the Sense 6.0 music player takes it up a notch just because it has more of an animated and dynamic approach. And you can tell that right away with the visualizer option right here that also displays their lyrics. Now you'd be surprised, the single speaker with the iPhone 5S is able to deliver just as strong of a tone than the dual front-firing speakers with HTC Boom sound with the HTC One M8. But at the end of the day, we still prefer the One M8 just because it has a more commanding, robust, and cheery tone to it. Mainly because it has the larger and higher resolution screen, we prefer the HTC One M8 when it comes to watching high definition videos. On top of that, it has a wide support for different video codecs out of the box, and of course those front-firing speakers really help in really giving us an encompassing experience. So let's go back and talk about their cameras. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of similarities between the two. For example, they both have backside illuminated sensors, the same size sensors even. They have dual LED flashes too with both, but the HTC One M8 has only a 4 megapixel ultra pixel camera. That's half as much as the 8 megapixel iSight camera of the iPhone 5S. But the cool thing about the HTC One M8 is that it features a secondary camera which is strictly used to provide depth information, so you get some really nifty post-photo effects. When it comes to taking photos, if you prefer something that's simple and easy, you're going to like the iPhone 5S's camera app. It's pretty much straight to the point. You're just focusing on taking photos. There are no manual controls and very few shooting modes, whereas with the HTC One M8, it's photog's dream just because you're going to have access to a lot of different manual controls right out of the box, and on top of that, you have some really nifty, cool photo effects you could choose from. Despite being heavily touted, the HTC One M8's camera fails to deliver the same high-level quality that you can get with the Apple iPhone 5S camera. Now, the iPhone 5S just wins in a variety of different categories. Details, color reproduction, indoor shots, nighttime shots. You're just gonna get better set of images with the iPhone 5S. There's just no comparison between the two. The biggest thing here is just pure details. When we look at the photos on a computer and we zoom in, we just get sharper looking details with the iPhone 5S. It's not to say that the HTC One M8 takes terrible shots. In fact, it takes some really nice looking photos, especially outdoors where there's plenty of sunlight. But the thing that really enhances the experience is the various duo effects it has to offer. And with that secondary camera, it's just used to measure depth information. So you're gonna get really cool post-photo effects like this one here, which provides some bokeh effects to different areas of the shot. So for example, if I wanna set the focus on a specific area, you could tap it, you're going to have it in focus while everything around it's going to get that off out of focus effect, and it's just really nice. There's a lot of different ones too available and really enhances the quality. Taking a look at their 1080p high definition video samples, again, we still gravitate towards the iPhone 5S for having the better quality between the two, especially in nighttime conditions where lighting is sparse, just because with the HTC One M8, you tend to see a little bit more digital noise in the video, and on top of that, just like a slightly choppy frame rate. Between them, it's the HTC One M8 that has the superior calling quality performance just because voices are more than audible, especially in noisy environments, thanks partly to the strong volume we get through the earpiece and the speakerphone. It really astounded us. The HTC One M8 has the superior battery life between the two based on our battery benchmark test. In fact, it put up over 7 hours from a full charge versus the iPhone 5S's slightly over 5-hour tally. It all falls back to pricing. Of course, that's the thing that's going to dictate whether or not a consumer picks one device over the other. Now, we know that both handsets are going to be available via contract. Your contract is going to cost, with most carriers, $200, that golden price point for most smartphones. And as we look at the outright pricing, they're actually quite the same. The base models at $650 for both units. Considering that the HTC One M8 is a new handset, it's bearing the same price point as this almost 6-month-old iPhone 5S, it seems as though you get more bang for the buck, especially when we look into its spec sheet. Naturally, what it's all going to hinge on is, of course, personal preference. So why would you want to go with the HTC One M8? If you want a handset that has a premium construction, has a long battery life, a very deep and diverse software experience, and also has a great call quality performance, you're going to want to stick with HTC's offering. Whereas with the iPhone 5S, you like something that's compact, form-fitting, still has a premium nature with its design, takes some stellar photos and videos, and something that's easy to use, you're going to stick with this guy. So if you guys want to learn more about either device, you can check out our website, PhoneArena.com. It's John V. Thanks for watching.